صلوات. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس من الجنة والناس. صلوات. الفاتحة.
صلوات. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: وعليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم، إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدا، السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة، إني يشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال له: وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء، أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أحبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم، قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. الفاتحة.
بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Mu'minin, tonight's Rouhani Majlis has been sponsored by Fazle Abbas by Rafiq for the Saleh Sawab of his beloved mother, Maruma Leila by Rafiq Fazal, and Marumins of Rafiq family, and Kul Marumins, you are humbly requested to recite Fatiha for Kul Marumins Al-Fatiha.
الصلوات. नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे हैदरी, रसूल आज़म की प्यारी दुख्तर, रसूल आज़म की प्यारी दुख्तर, शहीद आज़म की पाक मादर, शहीद आज़म की पाक मादर, जनाब शेर खुदा की बानू, जनाब शेर खुदा की बानू, हया की मलिका, जनाब ज़हरा नबी की सलवात.
لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام وتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. وعلى الجوهرة القدسية البتول الأزرى فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله وسلامه عليها. وبعلها أمير المؤمنين وقائد الغر المهجلين وبنيها الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقتلتهم وغاصب حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ملعونين. أما بعد، for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. When the Holy Prophet of Islam ascended on the night, or one of the nights of Mi'raj, he reaches a tree by the name of the tree of Tuba. What that means, the Urafa, Mufassirin, they've spoken about what the tree of Tuba itself represents, but it is the tree of Wilayah. As he approached this tree, Jibreel went forward and took from it an apple. And he gave it to the Holy Prophet. Said, Ya Rasulullah, take this apple. Allah has commanded for you to have this. Rasulullah says that knowing that this was a gift from Allah, I held it close to my chest. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, no, eat it now. And so the Holy Prophet says that I broke open this apple and the light emanated, such a light that it put me in a state of shock. Jibreel alayhi salam turned towards me and said, Ya Rasulullah, you seem shocked at viewing this nur? And Rasulullah replies, yes, I am Jibra'il. He says, Ya Rasulullah, do you know whose nur this is? Says, no, Jibra'il, tell me. Says, Ya Rasulullah, this is the nur of the one that will be Mansura in the heavens and Fatima upon the earth. Wow. The Holy Prophet is then ordered, consume this fruit. But before that he says to him, he says, Jibra'il, says, لما سميت في السماء المنصورة وفي الأرض فاطمة? For what reason is she called Mansura in the heavens and Fatima upon the earth? Jibra'il replies, قال سميت في الأرض فاطمة لأنها فطمت شيعتها من النار وفطم أعداؤها عن حبها. Says that she has been named Fatima for this reason, that her Shi'as will forever be removed from the fire of hell, and her enemies shall never be given the barakah of having her love within their hearts. Says, and so then why is she called Mansura? Says she is named as Mansura in the heavens. For as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Holy Quran, that on the day of judgment, the mu'mineen will be happy as a result of the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the help of Allah is the shifa'ah of Fatima Zahra on the day of judgment. Says they will all, for this reason she is known as Mansura. The Holy Prophet eats the apple. And the Holy Prophet himself, when talking about this particular maqam, he says, I saw Jibra'il in his true form. Jibra'il is from amongst the Malaika al-Mukarrab, the close angels of Allah, who are from the immaterial realms. Those four angels have no material form. They're totally immaterial. So meaning that the Holy Prophet of Islam is at such a maqam spiritually and in this journey that he has entered into the immaterial realms where he now can see Jibra'il in his true form. Even Musa alayhi salam, Isa, Ibrahim, none of the other prophets of God ever saw Ibrahim in true form. In fact, even when the narration says that Jibra'il or the other angels came down towards Maryam, what does it say? فَتَمَثَّلَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. They came to her in the form of a man, in the form of a human. But here this maqam that the Holy Prophet has achieved on the night of Mi'raj, this maqam of Qaba Qawsain or Adna, this maqam of entering in to the immaterial realms, at this point he sees Jibra'il in his true form. Now imagine the maqam of that lady, for whose sake the Holy Prophet is being taken to this level, that he must consume a fruit that contains the nur of Fatima Zahra within it. Is at that level the Holy Prophet eats that. But it doesn't end there. It says part of the nur of Fatima entered into my back. And as I was descending, they said to me that from now, for the next 40 days, you must stay away from Khadija. You must do i'tiqaf in the cave. Ya Rasulullah, what to do? Says, during the day you must fast. And in the nights you must stand for ibadat. And there were specific ibadat that were given to the Holy Prophet that he had to complete in this 40-day period. Ya Rasulullah, fast during the day. Do ibadat in the night, because we have something very special that we need to give to you. So for 40 days the Holy Prophet took part in this spiritual ritual. And every day he would send Amirul Mu'mineen or Ammar and say, go bring someone at the time of iftar so that they can sit with me and they can enjoy this iftar with me. Until it reached the 40th night. On the 40th night, when he came to break his fast, Jibra'il descended, said, Ya Rasulullah, on this night, it can only be you alone. What we bring for you tonight, only you can eat it. It is haram upon everyone else. Even Ali cannot taste from this. So it is on this night that Rasulullah, instead of sending Amir al-Mu'mineen to get to anyone, he says, Ali, you sit by the mouth of the cave to stop anyone else from coming inside. And then, as the time of the iftar draws near, Jibreel, Mikael, Israfil, they all descend. Now Mikael and Israfil do not enter the material realm, ever. Israfil will only enter the material realm at one point, and that is to kill you all of us. It's the only time he'll come. He doesn't enter the material realm. He remains in the immaterial, except at an extremely important time within human history. One is at the end of it, and to raise it, and one is here. Jibreel, Mikael, Israfil descend with food from the heaven, and they say, Ya Rasulullah, you must consume this. Says, I consumed it, and I found that the nur of Fatima completed within me, and the nutfa of Fatima entered into my back. And then they said to me, go towards Khadija. This whole period of pregnancy of Hazrat Khadija, one day the Holy Prophet comes home, finds Khadija salamullah alayha speaking to someone. Says, Khadija, who are you speaking to? Everybody's boycotted you. There's no one in the room. Says, Ya Rasulullah, الجنين الذي في بطني يحدثني. Says, this child within my womb, she speaks to me. She befriends me. Rasulullah says to her, Khadija, look, here is Jibreel with the news that the child that you are carrying is no ordinary child. It will be from her that my lineage will continue. It will be from her that the A'imma of Ahlul Bayt shall come. She is no ordinary child. And when it came to the time of the birth of Sayyidah, when it came to the time of the birth, at that point Khadija salamullah alayha herself narrates, says, I was all alone. There was no one there with me. So I saw 4 Hashemite ladies enter. A light filled the room, and when the light subsided, these 4 Hashemite ladies were standing there. Says, I became afraid. They called out to me, said, Khadija, don't be afraid. Allah has sent us in order to help you. Says, who are you? Says, we are those that are to help you through the birth of Fatima. Says, but who? Says, I. The first one says, I am Sarah, the wife of Ibrahim. She says, this is Maryam, the mother of Isa. This is Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun. And this is Kulthum, the sister of Musa. These 4 ladies of Jannah have been sent in order to help bring Fatima into this world. The Holy Prophet ascends on a heavenly journey, performs a 40-day i'tiqaf. There was only one other time that these 2 things were there, and that was upon the revelation of the Holy Quran. But again, when it comes for Fatima, he has to do both of these things. Why? Because Zahra brings 11 Qur'ans with her. This Quran is Samit, but Zahra is the mother of the 11 Quran Natiq that are to come. And she salamullah alayha, what maqam, what maqam. We can't understand who she is. We can't. She's beyond understanding. Imam Khomeini, he says that one of the greatest fada'il of Hazrat Zahra, he says, I can find no other virtue that tops this one virtue. And that is that after the death of the Holy Prophet, for 75 days, Jibreel came every single day to visit Hazrat Zahra. You see, when Amir al-Mu'mineen is burying the Holy Prophet, he says, Ya Rasulullah, لَقَدْ إِنْقَطَعَ بِمَوْتِكَ, that the thing that has been cut upon your death is something that was never cut upon the death of any other person. And that is the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Zahra Marziya is that individual. Maryam saw these malaika once or twice. Musa only got to see them a handful of times. Ibrahim maybe again a handful of times. But 75 days consistently, not just any Malik, but Jibreel himself is coming down. For what reason? The narration says, Kana Jibreel ya'tiha. Jibreel would come and visit her for 4 reasons. فَيُحْسِنُ عَزَاءَهَا عَلَىٰ أَبِيهَا, in order to give her condolences for the death of her father. وَيُطَيِّبُ نَفْسَهَا, and to make her feel easy. وَيُخْبِرُهَا عَنْ أَبِيهَا وَمَكَانِهِ, and to tell her about her father and what he was doing in heaven at that particular stage. وَيُخْبِرُهَا بِمَا يَكُونُ بَعْدَهَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهَا, and he would tell her what is to happen after her to her children. And the narration continues, and Ali would sit by her and write, and this is the mushaf of Fatima, of everything that is to happen. What maqam does this lady have? That one who understands her. The 6th Imam says, من عرف فاطمة حق معرفتها فقد أدرك ليلة القدر. This is the one that understands Fatima as is her right to be understood. فقد أدرك ليلة القدر. It is as if he has unlocked the night of Qadr. No, it's not he's unlocked the night of Qadr. No. فقد أدرك ليلة القدر, meaning that he has successfully completed the night of Qadr. Meaning the night of Qadr, that is خير من ألف الشهر, cannot successfully be completed without the ma'rifah of Fatima Zahra. The 6th Imam says, Fatima hiya laylatul qadr, that Zahra Marziya is the night of Qadr. She is that which is hidden in the night of Qadr. One cannot complete it without her ma'rifah. But in order to try and understand at least her worldly life, because she was not from this world. You know, the companions are sitting with the Holy Prophet, and they say, Rasulullah says to them that, you know, when Zahra was created, before even the creation of Adam, and they said to him, Ya Rasulullah, is Zahra not a woman? Is she not a human? And the Holy Prophet says, بَلْ هِيَ حَوْرَاء الْإِنسِيَّةِ, says, she is, but she is a hur in human form. And that's why she herself, many a times when she addresses, she says, min dunyakum. In some of her narrations, says, min dunyakum, from your dunya. Because Zahra is above, from another plane, from another existence. How can we explain her? The Sunni alim, he writes something very beautiful. Ahmed Khalil Jum'ah, a Sunni writer, he, in one of his books, he says, how is it best that I can describe Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet? He says, if they were to ask me, who is Fatima? The only thing that I can say that successfully describes her says, كانت مرآة لأبيها. She is a mirror of her father. Zahra Marziya, whatever you see in the Holy Prophet, you find within the wujud of Zahra alayha salam. كانت مرآة لأبيها. She is a mirror of her father. All those sifat, and that's why he said, Fatima bad'atun minni. Fatima Abiha. Each of these names, if we had 10 nights, 15 nights to discuss, the Urafa have just this Abiha. What does it mean? Yes, on the Zahir, she came, she helped her father when he was injured, but it means so much more. So much more. If only we could understand her. But what I want to do in this lecture is look at a hadith and draw parallels to her blessed life. And this hadith is very simple. It's something that everyone aspires towards. And that is honor, benefit, to raise one's position in the dunya. To be someone that is honored, someone that is respected, to be someone that is loved. This narration, it says, أربع خصال يسود بها المرء. Says that there are 4 characteristics that raise and honor the human being, that raise their maqam. So the first, al-iffa, chastity. Wal-adab, second, manners. Wal-jud, generosity. Wal-aql, and the intellect. Says these 4 characteristics raise and give honor to a person, give benefit to a person within this worldly life. The first, iffa, chastity. Chastity of the eyes, don't look at everything. Chastity of the ears, don't listen to everything. Chastity of words, don't say everything. Chastity of the pen, don't write everything. Chastity of social media, don't post everything. Iffa continues and covers every aspect of one's life. Chastity of the stomach, don't eat everything. Chastity of your desires, keep them halal. Chase them through halal means. Chastity covers everything. In fact, the narration from Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi says, أفضل العبادة العفاف, says the greatest of ibadat, the greatest of worship is chastity. To be one that has chastity in every single aspect of their life. An individual comes to Imam al-Baqir and he says to the Imam, he says, Ya ibn Rasulillah, says, Inni dha'iful amal, wa qalilu salah, wa qalilu sawm. Says, I'm a person who is weak in action. Says, I pray a little, I fast a little. Basically, I do the bare necessities, my wajibat. That's all I do. However, Ya ibn Rasulillah, لا آكل إلا حلال ولا أنكح إلا حلال. He says, but Ya ibn Rasulillah, I don't eat anything except that which is halal. Nor do I chase my desires except through a halal avenue. Imam alayhi salam looks towards him. He says, وَأَيُّ جِهَادٍ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ عِفَّةِ الْبَطْنِ وَالْفَرْجِ. Says, then what greater jihad is there than the chastity of the stomach and of one's desires? Says, this is the greatest of worship. There is no greater ibadat than this. The narration says, مَا عُبِدَ اللَّهِ بِشَيْءٍ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ إِفَّةِ الْبَطْنِ وَالْفَرْجِ. That there is no greater ibadat in the eyes of Allah, towards Allah, than the chastity of one's stomach and of one's desires. To be able to curb them, to bring them under the guise of chastity. You look at the life of Hazrat Zahra, you all know the famous story. The Holy Prophet brings home a blind companion. And Zahra alayhi salam says, Father, wait. Says, I don't have my hijab. And The Holy Prophet says, no, he's blind. And we often hear that she replies, yeah, but I'm not. But actually, if you go into the riwayat, it says the reason for why she was saying is because she had applied perfume that day. Though the man could not see, but he could still smell. And so she says, wait. The iffat of Zahra alayha salam, that even though he can't see, but he can still smell. Chastity in every aspect of one's life. When it comes to giving her khutbah fadakiyah, they tell her it's been taken. She comes out of her home, but in what state? لاثت خمارها على رأسها واشتملت بجلبابها. She wraps her khimar around her head. واشتملت بجلبابها. She covers her in her herself in her jilbab. She surrounds herself with the women that were close to her and members of her family, and then she walks towards the masjid of the Prophet. And then even then, when she reaches there, she asks for a curtain to be placed in front, and then she, salamullah alayha, speaks. The iffat of Zahra alayha salam. So the first thing that raises an individual is iffah. The second thing, adab, manners. What can we say about manners? There's a beautiful tradition from Amir al-Mu'mineen that encompasses every single aspect of these manners. He says, al-adab an yaqif al-insan 'inda haddih. Says adab is this, that an individual knows their boundaries. That's it. Manners, adab, is that one knows their lane and they stay in their lane. They don't transgress boundaries. For my child, I'm her father. For my father, I'm his child. So I don't act like my father like a father with my father. Adab dictates what? That I do not extend outside of the boundaries. My relationship with my father is the one of a son. And so I remain in that position of a son, though I may be a father to my own children. But then for them, I'm at the maqam of a father. Everyone has a had. Everyone has a boundary and a lane. Someone's a doctor, someone's an accountant, someone's whatever they are. And everybody stays in their lane. You wouldn't expect an accountant to now start giving his opinion on things about the religion. Although, they do sometimes. But you wouldn't expect it. You wouldn't expect me now to come here and say, listen, hand over your tax returns. I'll sort you out. Stay in your lane. You don't know anything about tax returns. But when it comes to religion, it's free game. Everybody jumps in. This is my lane as well. Everyone has an opinion about it. And this is one of the fundamental problems in our society. That these hudud, these boundaries are being smashed. They're not being adhered to. These boundaries are being smashed. Children don't know how to speak to their parents. Parents don't know how to speak to their children. Children want to be at the position of their parents, or be better than or think that they know better than their parents. The wife wants to be a husband. The husband wants to be a wife. Girls want to be boys. Boys want to be girls. Some don't want to be anything. Gender neutral, they're called. We're getting to battles of pronouns and things. But the hudud, when the hudud are broken, this is what happens. Right now, if I want to stand here and identify myself as a Korean chinchilla, well, who is there to stop me? Hopefully there will be mu'mineen that will stand up even in these times and say, whoa, hold on. You're not a chinchilla. And you're certainly not Korean. But when the hudud are broken, then this madness happens. This madness enters into society, and it starts off small. When we break the small boundaries, we break those small lanes, then they begin to expand out to greater problems. Zahra alayha salam, with all her greatness, with all the maqam that we spoke about before, when she's with Imam al-Hassan, she's throwing him up, she's laughing with him, she's joking with him, she's reciting poetry to him. She's a mother. But the moment Amirul Mu'mineen walks in, she's a wife. Nafsi laka al-fida, ruhi laka al-wiqa. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, may my soul be sacrificed. Every single time Amir al-Mu'mineen entered into the house, this is how Zahra alayha salam greeted him. With Amir al-Mu'mineen, she's a wife. With Rasulullah, she's his daughter. You know, one day, she goes to the Holy Prophet and she addresses him as Ya Rasulullah. The Holy Prophet looks at her and says, Fatima, why did you call me Rasulullah? Says the ayah came down that only address him as Rasulullah. Says Fatima, this was not for you. Fatima, you call me Abba. You call me Abata. Why? فَإِنَّهُ أَحْيَا لِلْقَلْبِ وَأَرْضَى لِلرَّبِّ. Because it brings peace to my heart and it pleases the Lord. She's a daughter to Rasulullah. Al-adab أن يقف الإنسان عند حده. Adab is this, that a person knows their boundaries and stays in their lane. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he has guests over to his home. And who is Ali? He is the Imam. He is the Khalifa on the people, Zahiran, now it's during his Khilafat. But he is also Khalifatullah, he is Aynullah, he is Yadullah, he is Lisanullah. He is all of this. But he has guests over in his home now. So he brings food, a father and a son. He brings food, they eat. And in the Arabs, there's a tradition that once you've eaten, then they'll come and they'll wash your hands in the place that you are at. And so Amir al-Mu'mineen, after they've finished, he stands up, he picks up the water, the jug of water in the bowl. He comes towards. The father says, no, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, how can you wash our hands? You are Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, no. He says, right now I'm a host to my guests. Put your hands out. So the man washes his hands. Then it's the turn of the son to have his hands washed. Amir al-Mu'mineen calls his son Muhammad Hanafiya. He says, come, wash this son's hands. And afterwards Amir al-Mu'mineen explains. He says, had I washed the hands of the son as well, the son and the father would have been at the same maqam. But I called my son to wash his hands so he would know that the maqam of his father is such. It would be, if I'd washed both of their hands, it would be as if I'm disrespecting the father. Adab is about knowing your lane and staying within it. Another example of a boundary. One day, a beggar comes into the masjid. And Imam al-Hassan is sitting there. He comes to Imam al-Hassan, says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, please help me. Imam al-Hassan gives him 500 dirham. 500 dirham. Then Imam al-Husaini is sitting a short distance away. So he goes to Imam al-Husain. Imam al-Husain gives him 490 dirham out of respect for his older brother. Imam al-Radha says, your elder brother is at the position of your father. He holds the position of your father. Says, out of respect for his older brother, Imam al-Husayn gives 490 dirham, 10 dirhams less. And then Abdullah ibn Ja'far is sitting there. So he goes to Abdullah ibn Ja'far and he gives 480 dirham, out of respect for both of them. The had of every single person must be adhered. Every person must understand their boundaries and remain within that boundary. You know, my brother has guests in his house and the lamp breaks. And so Imam Radha he's trying to fix it, and this guest puts his hand forward to help the Imam. Says, Imam, I know how to fix these. Imam grabs his hand, puts it back, says, no. You're a guest. Says, we Ahlul Bayt do not make our guests work. We don't make our guests work. The Imam himself fix it. We don't get our guests to get up and say, oh, listen, once you finish, could you just clean up as well? You know, well, maybe some do. We shouldn't. So the Imam says, I remember Shahr Ramadan. I won't say when or how, because then people will know where. But Shahr Ramadan, I went to a community and they were very active, and you know, from the first night, suhoor program, you know, so it was a really long fast, a hot fast. And so during the day you'd fast, and then, you know, do your iftar, give the lecture, and then they'd have a Q&A, and then, you know, the night would just about begin for them. And then it would be like, oh, please come to our house for suhoor, we've arranged suhoor for you. So alhamdulillah, this is really nice of them, you know. But the thing is that every single house I went with the intention of suhoor. But every house I went into is like, yeah, we'll get to the suhoor. Can you just do a short lecture for us? And it's like, okay, how short? You know, 30, 40 minutes. So they thought, you know, we've got him, so let's just utilize this. Don't make your guests work. The point is. And they were like, okay, we've got this guy now. If you want to eat, recite majlis first. Otherwise, you're getting no suhoor. So the second thing that raises a person is adab, is knowing your lane and staying within it. The third thing that raises a person is jood, generosity. The one that is generous, the narration says, as-sakhi qareebun min Allah, qareebun min al-jannah, wa qareebun min al-nas, wa ba'idun min al-nar. Says three things. Qareebun min Allah. The generous person is close to Allah. Wa qareebun min al-nas, and he's close to the people. Wa qareebun min al-jannah, and he's close to Jannah. وَبَعِيدٌ مِّنَ النَّارِ, and he's far from the fire of hell. But on the other side, وَالْبَخِيلِ, the miser. The miser is different now. وَالْبَخِيلِ بَعِيدٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ بَعِيدٌ مِّنَ الْجَنَّةِ بَعِيدٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ وَقَرِيبٌ مِّنَ النَّارِ. Says the bakhil, the miser, the one that doesn't like to part with his wealth, with his time, with his advice, with anything, says that person is qareebun min an-nar, is near to the fire. He's far from Allah, he's far from the people. He's far from all of this, he's far from Jannah. Why? Because he is bakhil, he's a miser. Poor person comes into the masjid, says, I'm hungry. Rasulullah looks at the ashab, says, who will take this man and feed him? Amirul Mu'mineen stands up, says, I'll take him. So he brings him to the house and he makes him wait there. He goes inside, says, Zahra, there was a man who was hungry. He came to the masjid to ask for help. I brought him home. Do we have anything to eat? She says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Abu al-Hasan, we only have the food of our child. At that time, it was only Imam al-Hasan. So we only have what we'd made for Imam al-Hasan. We don't have any other food in the house for us to eat. Says, and you know, this is a level above generosity. This is ithar. Ithar is not wajib on everyone, because not everyone has the capacity for ithar. Ithar is where one puts themselves in detriment in order to help another person out of difficulty. This ithar is what Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam displayed over and over. When Abbas is at the banks of Furat, for Abbas to drink from the water of the Furat, there's no problem. But is Ya nafs min ba'd al-Husaini huni, he's throwing back of the water, is the ithar of Abbas, that how can I drink when my master has nothing to drink? Ithar is not wajib on everyone. Not everyone can achieve that maqam, but it is the highest maqam. It is above generosity. Your shari'i responsibility is to feed your child. But here, she says Imam al-Hasan can go through the night without any food. He's okay. So give this to this man. So Amir al-Mu'mineen calls him in, he feeds him. Both Amir al-Mu'mineen and Hazrat Zahra go to sleep hungry. The next day, when Amir al-Mu'mineen comes to the masjid, Rasulullah says to him, Ali, what did you do last night? Says, Ya Rasulullah, what do you mean? He says, Jibreel just came down with this ayah, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Says, and there are certain individuals who will give in the way of Allah even when it is at a detriment to themselves. Says, Ali, what did you do? Zahra alayha salam is ithar, the epitome of ithar. Who gives away her wedding dress on the wedding day? It is only Zahra Marziya. Surah Dahr comes down for her. 3 days of iftar they give. And the ayat of Surah Dahr come in their madh, in her thana, in her praise. And it's interesting, the Sunni alim Alusi, in his book Ma'ani al-Akhbar, he says that it's weird here in this surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the abarar, the individuals who give away, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ إِلَىٰ آخِرٍ, says that they give away in the way of give in the way of Allah. They are the abarar. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins to list more than 10 blessings that the abarar are to gain. He talks about the clothes, the plates, the servants, the trees, the cushions, the rivers. But Alusi notes, he says, there is no mention of the hurul ain in this ayah. In this whole surah, when it talks about the blessings of heaven, everywhere else in the Quran, wherever it talks about the blessings of heaven, it always speaks about the hurul ain. But he says in this surah, in Surah Ad-Dahr that came down for the ithar of Fatima, says there is no mention of the hurul ain. He says, I can only conclude one thing, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here was ra'ayatan li hurmatil butul qurrata ayn al-rasul. He says that Allah was observing the hurma and the sanctity of Fatima to Zahra, the light of the eyes of the Prophet. Thus he does not mention any hurul ain in this. Says this is the maqam of Fatima, that Allah won't mention the hurul ain, for this is surah has come for Fatima to Zahra. Well, adab, a person has that adab that they need it in their life. Jud, adab, all of these make up a person. And then the last thing, wala aql, intellect. The fourth thing that allows a person to ascend. Use your mind. Don't get bogged down in omens and various things. You know, I fall ill. I got nazar. Someone gave me nazar. You know. or something bad happened in my life, someone did a ta'weez on me, someone did magic on me, I need to go and get this broken and spill the blood of a cockerel in 4 corners of the room, and a black goat has to be killed at this time. Says, use your aql. Inna ta'irukum ma'akum. The Holy Quran says, your omens are from yourself. Nothing to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not saying that there isn't evil eye. Of course, the ayat of the Holy Quran are there. I'm not saying that there's not magic ayat of the Holy Quran are there. But their occurrence is a lot less than what we think. Their occurrence isn't as often. And so we're like, oh no, I can't do this, I might get nazar. And that itself is also something that is an indication of that jahl. Oh no, I can afford this, but I won't get it because people will give me nazar. That is just an offshoot of bukhl, of that being a miser. That I won't do it because in case people see and then they'll give me nazar and then everything will... No, there's not this one extreme and there's not the other extreme. One has to be in the middle. One has to go down the middle path. Some people are like, no, I've got to hide everything about myself in case, someone notices. In case someone does nazar on me or does magic on me. So I've got to hide everything. It's not like that either. Even the Holy Prophet, فَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. And at times when it comes to the ni'mah that your Lord has bestowed you, فَحَدِّثْ. Tell the people. It's not for everything. That's why I said middle of the road. Have ones utilize the aql to try and transcend beyond the mundane understanding of the religion and the world that we have. Because there is a far greater understanding beyond the apparent. And it requires the aql to pierce through those curtains that separate from that higher reality. Use the wasila of Ahlul Bayt. The istighatha to Hazrat Zahra alayha salam. This is one of the most powerful ones. And on this night, I want to give you all a gift. In terms, it's a ma'nawi gift, it's not physical, don't worry. It's a ma'nawi gift, an esoteric gift. In one of the books, it's called Fatima, Bahjatu Qalbi al-Mustafa. Fatima, the peace of the heart of Mustafa, of the Holy Prophet. It's Sheikh Ahmed Hamadani. He narrates from his teacher, the great Arif. He says, سَمِعْتُ شَيْخِي وَمُعْتَمَدِي. I heard from my teacher and the person whom I rely on, Ayatollah al-Marhum Mullah Ali Ma'sumi Hamadani, one of the greatest Urafa. He says that if a person recites the salawat of Fatima to Zahra to the equivalent of the name, the numerology of the name of Fatima, which is 530 times. 530 times recites the following salawat. Allahumma salli ala Fatimata wa abiha wa ba'liha wa baniha bi'adadi ma ahata bihi ilmuk. In this particular one, wasar al-mustawdi'i fiha is not there. But he says the one who recites this 530 times, whatever they want, if they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give it to them. One of the greatest doors to the mercy of God is Zahra Marziyah. In fact, the greatest door to the mercy other than Rasulullah himself is Zahra alayha salam, but she is bad'atu Rasulillah anyway, so it's all one and the same. Because if you refer to Imam al-Husayn as what? Bab rahmatillahi al-wasi'ah. That's one of the ways that people refer to Imam al-Husayn, that he is the door towards the rahmah of Allah. Wasi'ah. It's open. It's open. Because he is the hujjah of Allah. But the 11th Imam, he says, Nahnu, that we, the Imams, are the hujjah of Allah upon creation. upon all of creation. وَجَدَّتُنَا فَاطِمَةً حُجَّتْ عَلَيْنَا. But our mother Fatima is the hujjah of Allah on us. So if he is Bab Rahmatillahi al-Wasi'a, then imagine what door to the rahmah of Allah Zahra alayha salam is. Imagine what maqam she has. If you go through the door of Hazrat Zahra, your dua will be answered. I remember I gave this to a friend and he asked, he was in some issues. So I gave it to him, and then the next day he messaged me. He goes, "What did you give me?" And these are his words. He goes, "That was nuclear." He goes, the same day the problem was solved. So this is a very powerful istighatha, a very powerful wasila towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the door of Hazrat Zahra. And when one does istighatha to Hazrat Zahra, it is important that one go in a way that a child goes towards their mother. Goes towards their mother. Yes, it is true that Fatima al-Zahra, salamullah alayha, is the mother of the Sadat. But in one of our oldest books of tafsir, it's a tafsir riwa'i that goes through hadith. It's the tafsir of Furat ibn Ibrahim al-Kufi. In there, under the surah of Qadr, under the ayah of Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alf shahr, he says this Laylatul Qadr hiya Fatimatu Zahra. This we mentioned before, that Laylatul Qadr is Fatimatu Zahra. He says Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alf shahr, يعني فاطمة خير من ألف مؤمن وهي أم المؤمنين. From Mama Sadiq, he quotes this hadith, says that Fatima is greater than over 1,000 mu'min, and she is Ummul Mu'mineen. She is the mother of the mu'mineen. In the same way that Amirul Mu'mineen and Rasulullah, the way Rasulullah says, Ana wa Ali abawa hadhihi al-ummah, that me and Ali are the fathers of this ummah. Imam al-Sadiq says the position of Zahra Marziya is like that as a mother to all of the believers. When one does istighatha to her or does wasila towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through her, one must go as a child going towards his mother. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the barakah of the wujood of Hazrat Zahra and her blessed existence, that He forgives our sins. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the sins of our parents. Pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shafa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Those in education, make them successful. Oh Allah, keep safe the Shia of Ahlul Bayt around the world. Ya Allah, destroy the enemies of Tashayyu in whichever form they may come. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarat of Ahlul Bayt this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq within our lives to see the haram of Hazrat Zahra rebuilt. Ya Allah, keep our ulama and our maraji at the head of our institutions. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of Yusuf Zahra and allow us to be amongst His true muntadhireen, His true awaiters for the acceptance of these du'as and any of the du'as that you brothers and sisters have brought on this night. Please recite 3 of your loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
ومحمد وآل محمد صلوات. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. تمام مومنین کو ولادت بی بی فاطمہ زہرا سلام اللہ علیہ کی بہت سی مبارک ہو. اور شروع کروں گا ایک منقبت سے. آپ سب کی اجازت ہے مل کے پڑھیں انشاءاللہ. آپ سب کی اجازت ہے ایک درود پڑھے گا محمد اور آل محمد پر. کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے. مل کے پڑھیے. کون فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے. یا نبی و علی، یا نبی و علی و خدا کون ہے. کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے فاطمہ. دے نہ پائے مکمل جواب انبیاء، دے نہ پائے مکمل جواب انبیاء، دے نہ پائے مکمل جواب انبیاء. جب یہ پوچھا گیا، جب یہ پوچھا گیا سیدہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا. ماشاءاللہ بلند آواز سے. کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے فاطمہ. از ازل تابد، از ازل تابد اتنے کم وقت میں، از ازل تابد اتنے کم وقت میں، از ازل تابد اتنے کم وقت میں. کیا بتائے علی، کیا بتائے علی فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ. نعرہ حیدری، حیدری، حیدری. بلند آواز سے. کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ. اور جاؤ گے کیسے تم حشر میں شیخ جی، جاؤ گے کیسے تم حشر میں شیخ جی، جاؤ گے کیسے تم حشر میں شیخ جی. فاطمہ پوچھے گی، فاطمہ پوچھے گی تو بتا کون ہے. علی مولا، علی مولا یا علی. فاطمہ پوچھے گی، فاطمہ پوچھے گی تو بتا کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے فاطمہ. اپنے ذہن کربلا تک لے جائے گا کہ یہ یقین اس کو جنت، یہ یقین اس کو جنت تلک لے گیا، یہ یقین اس کو جنت تلک لے گیا، یہ یقین اس کو جنت تلک لے گیا. حر کو معلوم تھا، حر کو معلوم تھا فاطمہ کون ہے، کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے کون سمجھے فاطمہ کون ہے کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ اور ذکر حیدر کرو جان جاؤ گے سب 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 ٹھہرتا کون ہے ٹھہرتا کون ہے بھاگتا کون ہے علی مولا علی مولا یہ ذکر حیدر کرو ذکر حیدر کرو جان جاؤ گے سب ذکر حیدر کرو جان جاؤ گے سب ٹھہرتا کون ہے ٹھہرتا کون ہے ٹھہرتا کون ہے بھاگتا کون ہے کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ ماشاءاللہ بلند آواز سے کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ اور یہ تبارہ کا شعر آپ کو پسند آئے تو ایک اور شعر آپ کی سماعت پیش کر رہا ہوں کہ یاد رکھنا عہد میں مسلمان ذرا کافی لوگ ہوتے ہیں ہمارے درمیان جو کہتے ہیں کہ وہ 1 2 3 جو اچھی چیز انہوں نے کی ہے اس پہ ہمیں غور کرنا چاہیے تو میں آپ کو بتاتا ہوں کیا اچھی چیز کیا ہے یہ تینوں نے کہ یاد رکھنا عہد میں مسلمان ذرا یاد رکھنا عہد میں مسلمان ذرا چھوڑ کر مصطفیٰ کو گیا کون ہے علی مولا حیدری کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے کون سمجھے بھلا اور مقطع کا کہ کر تبرا تکلم تو کھل جائے گا کر تبرا تکلم تو کھل جائے گا دشمن سیدہ کون تھا کون ہے کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ہے کون سمجھے فاطمہ آخری بار بلند آواز سے کون سمجھے بھلا فاطمہ کون ماشاءاللہ بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات تو بڑی سخی ہے فاطمہ 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 محسن علی ہے فاطمہ تو بڑی سخی ہے فاطمہ مل کے سب پڑھیے تو بڑی سخی ہے فاطمہ تو بڑی کیا تقابل امہات سے کیا تقابل امہات سے ماں رسول کی ہے فاطمہ ماں رسول کی ہے فاطمہ تو بڑی سخی ہے فاطمہ علی مولا حیدری تو بڑی سخی ہے فاطمہ तू बड़ी सखी है फातिमा। और ला इलाह झूमने लगा, ला इलाह झूमने लगा, सजदा कर रही है फातिमा, सजदा कर रही है फातिमा। तू बड़ी सखी है फातिमा, तू बड़ी, माशाल्लाह। आखिरी बार सब बुलंद आवाज से, तू बड़ी सखी है फातिमा, तू बड़ी सखी है फातिमा। पर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलवात।
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أفضل السلام محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. يا زهراء 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 يا زهراء. You loved your father and took great care. Through trials and tribulations, you were always there. When your mother left this world, Fatima, you were so young. Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. As a wife, you helped Ali, the lion of Allah, his mission to achieve. You both are the pinnacle of purity. Worship and strength was your belief. Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. Tranquility and generosity in your house you conceal. By Allah's pleasure to your family, Surah Dahr was revealed. Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. You brought up your children in the best of ways. Zainab, Kulsum and Husaini, for Islam they're the shining rays. By example they lead the way. Ya Zahra, Ya Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. You are a perfect example of how a daughter, wife and mother should be. Your piety and pure character shows us how a woman should be. Ya Zahra, oh, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, oh, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, oh, Ya Zahra. Your purity, sanctity, and divine knowledge has no measure, Fatima, for Islam and the Prophet's Ummah. You are the greatest treasure. Ya Zahra, oh, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, oh, Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra, oh, Ya Zahra. Fatima bint al-Rasul, anti Fatima al-Batul, hakaza قال الرسول حب فاطمة البتول. يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زهراء. محمد وعلي محمد صلوات.
السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا باعث الهدى، السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا حسين شهيد بكربلاء وتسعة المعصومين من ذريتك، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين وسيد الساجدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر من نبيين، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم باب الهوائج، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا الزامن، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي الجواد، السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد النقي الهادي، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي الزكي الأسكري، السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا دافع الظلم والعدوان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، واجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك وشيئتك. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.